Attention! This is not material for passive consumption. It is designed to be heard with maximum concentration. The following revelations are direct, potentially disturbing, and may challenge your perceptions. Due to the sensitive nature of the content, its availability may be limited. Your experience on this topic is valuable. Leave it in the comments.
You can learn a lot about a person by what they try to hide. The cracks in the mask always show sooner or later. It's in the flicker of an eye when you ask a question that lands too close to home. The slight tensing of a jaw. The smile that's a little too wide, a little too quick, a little too empty. We all wear masks. It's how we get through the day, a necessary piece of social armor. But I want you to think for a moment about the masks you've encountered in your own life. Think about the people whose smiles never quite reach their eyes, whose laughter never seemed to hold any real joy. Some masks are there to protect a fragile soul, a tender heart afraid of the world's sharp edges. But others are there to conceal a void. A predator's patience, a loaded gun. You think you can see evil coming. You're wrong. The most dangerous people in this world are the ones who have mastered the art of wearing a friendly face. They walk among us, sit next to us, work with us. They use words like love and friendship and trust, like keys to doors they have no right to open. And once they're inside, they don't just steal your valuables. They rearrange the furniture of your mind until you can't find your way out of your own head. They want you to believe the monster is a myth, a caricature from a cheap movie. Tonight, we pull the myth apart and look at the gears and wires that make it tick. Every story has a beginning. But what does that really mean? It means every shadow was cast by something solid. This one starts not with a bang, but with a whisper of something wrong. A name. Two names, really. Words you've heard 1,000 times on the news, in cheap thrillers, in late-night conversations about toxic relationships. Sociopath, psychopath. They're thrown around like stones, meant to hurt, to label, to define the darkness we don't understand. We use them interchangeably, like two different words for the same monster. But that's a mistake, a dangerous one. Because while both may lead you down a dark alley, they'll do it for different reasons and in different ways. One is a wildfire, a chaotic roaring inferno of impulse and rage that tears through your life, leaving a trail of scorched earth and wreckage. The other is a slow-acting poison, colorless, odorless, administered in such small doses that you don't even know you're dying until your heart has already stopped. They are both architects of ruin, yes. They both operate from a place of profound, chilling emptiness. But if you want to survive in this world, you need to understand the difference. You need to know if you're dealing with a rabid dog or a patient hunter. Because your life, your sanity, your very sense of self might just depend on it. The pieces were on the board. Now it was time to watch them move. And the first move was a lie. But what does that really mean? It means understanding the nature of the player. This is more than just a behavioral quirk. It's a fundamental aspect of a dangerous psychological profile. Think you know the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath? Most people use the terms interchangeably, but the real distinctions are crucial for recognizing the emotional manipulators in your life. Learn the key differences between these forms of antisocial behavior and understand why both pose a significant threat. Let's start with the one you're more likely to spot, the one whose chaos is written all over their face. The sociopath. Think of a character like Mark. Mark is perpetually down on his luck, and it's always someone else's fault. He loses his job after an explosive argument with his boss, wrecks his car in a fit of road rage, and his relationships burn out in a blaze of jealousy and accusations. He can be charming for a week, a month, but the cracks show quickly. He'll borrow money he never intends to repay, tell you a sob story about his tragic childhood to gain your sympathy, and then fly into a volcanic rage when you question an obvious lie. His danger lies in his impulsivity. Imagine this. You and Mark have been dating for 2 months. You gently mention that he forgot to pay his share of the rent. He doesn't apologize. Instead, his face darkens, and he accuses you of being obsessed with money, just like his abusive mother. He punches a hole in the wall, the shock of it silencing you completely. The next day, he's full of remorse, not for his anger, but for his pain. He cries, tells you how his past trauma makes him overreact, how you're the only one who has ever understood him. He makes you feel guilty for triggering him. You end up comforting him for the damage he caused. This is his loop: explosion, manipulation, feigned remorse. He's a stray dog that has only ever known kicks and scraps, so it snarls and bites at any hand that comes near. They see society as a game that was rigged against them from the start, so why bother playing fair? They are capable of forming attachments in their own twisted way, but this connection is fragile, built on a foundation of self-interest and paranoia. Their lack of empathy is not absolute, but it is severely stunted. The difference isn't just in what they do, but in what they feel, or fail to feel. When they hurt you, they might feel a flicker of annoyance at your reaction, but not the weight of your pain. They are a mess of exposed wires. But as frightening as this chaos is, there's something far more terrifying. And that's where the game changes. Now let's talk about the other one. The one you won't see coming, the psychopath. Not every monster comes with fangs. Some come with flowers. If the sociopath is a wildfire, the psychopath is a perfectly crafted, silent bomb. This is the individual who doesn't appear to be at war with anything. In fact, they appear to be winning. Think of Julian. He's a successful lawyer, a pillar of his community, endlessly charming, and utterly devoted to his partner. Or so it seems. Julian met his partner, Sarah, and became her perfect man. He mirrored her dreams, echoed her values, and showered her with affection. Slowly, meticulously, he began to isolate her. It started small. He'd find a subtle flaw in her best friend. She seems a bit competitive with you, doesn't she? He'd express concern about her family. They don't seem to appreciate how brilliant you are. Each comment was a single drop of poison, designed to erode her trust in her own support system. He would help her with her finances until she no longer knew her own passwords. He would surprise her by showing up at her work lunches, framing it as romantic when it was an act of surveillance. The weapon isn't the knife, it's the smile. This is the chilling nature of this personality disorder. Julian doesn't feel love. He sees it as a vulnerability. He doesn't feel guilt. He feels strategy. His actions are not impulsive. They are calculated moves in a long game of chess that only he is playing. People are not people. They are objects. Pawns to be moved, tools to be used, toys to be played with and then discarded. Their lack of empathy is absolute. They might understand that you are in pain on an intellectual level, the way a mechanic understands how an engine works, but there is no emotional resonance. It's just data to be used to better manipulate you. But then, you look into his eyes, and you see nothing, absolutely nothing. When you confront a psychopath with evidence of their wrongdoing, there is no rage, just a calm, cold, almost curious stare. Their danger is not in their chaos, but in their order. They will dismantle your life with the detached precision of a surgeon, and they will feel nothing but the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. This was the moment, the point of no return. But what does that really mean? It's the instant you see the fundamental difference not in their actions, but in their core. The instant the mask doesn't just slip, it shatters. And you finally understand the chasm that separates them. The sociopath might on some level know they are damaged. Their anger, their impulsivity, it's the thrashing of a wounded animal. You might even feel a dangerous flicker of pity for them. But when the psychopath's mask shatters, there is nothing there. No wounded animal, no tormented soul, just a void. A cold, black, calculating machine. The horrifying realization is this: the sociopath breaks the rules because they feel the rules have broken them. The psychopath breaks the rules because they believe they are above them. One is a rebellion against the game, the other is a contempt for the players. And in that moment of clarity, you see that one might be capable of a fleeting moment of regret, while the other is incapable of the concept. It's the difference between a man who burns down a house in a fit of rage and a man who designs a flawless incendiary device simply to watch it burn. Both leave you in ashes, but only one of them enjoyed the architecture of the flame. After the storm, there's the quiet. But what does that really mean? The devastating calm of consequence. Whether the destruction was caused by a chaotic storm or a silent, creeping fog, you are left in the wreckage of what you thought was your life. The aftermath is a landscape of confusion and profound self-doubt, a hallmark of abusive relationships. You replay every conversation, every interaction, searching for the moment you should have known. With the sociopath, you're left with the scars of their chaos. You feel exhausted, battered, as if you've survived a natural disaster. With the psychopath, the quiet is deeper, more insidious. You don't just doubt your judgment, you doubt your entire reality. Because they didn't just lie to you, they curated a world for you. It's easy to love a psychopath. The hard part is realizing you loved one. The emotional trauma is profound. It's a violation of the soul. You are left with a chilling understanding that you were not a person to them. You were a project. And the most painful part is that for both, the story ends the same way. They move on. The sociopath moves on to the next town, the next job, the next relationship to burn. The psychopath moves on to the next target, the next game. They feel nothing. No remorse, no sadness, no loss. You are a chapter they have finished, a house they have vacated, and you are left to live in the ruins. This pathological behavior is a classic example of the dark triad. To understand the other components, watch our deep dive into another case linked in the description. And so the curtain falls. But the darkness never really goes away. But what does that really mean? It means that these aren't just characters in a story. They are out there. The impulsive, wounded predator and the cold, calculating one. In the end, the clinical labels matter less than the reality of the threat. The names are just different shades of black. What matters is recognizing the pattern, the constant deceit, the chilling lack of empathy, the casual cruelty, the utter disregard for the damage they cause. Whether they are born of trauma or born of a void, the result is the same, a human being who moves through the world like a shark through water, seeing others not as fellow souls but as prey or obstacles. The lesson isn't to become cynical, to wall yourself off from the world. The lesson is to become wise, to listen to that whisper of something wrong, to trust your instincts when a person seems too good to be true, or when their stories don't add up, to understand that some people are not like you. They do not play by your rules. They don't even see the game. They only see what they want, and they will walk through you to get it. We dissect the shadows of the human mind every week to bring the truth into the light. Subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you don't miss the next case.